So historically, so we're going to talk about why fungi have two names. One species had two names. So historically, fungi have names for each state in its life cycle. So do you remember anamorph, teleomorph? So minsan may name siya na sa teleomorph lang, may name din ng anamorph lang because they don't occur together all the time. Minsan teleomorph lang siya talaga, hindi nakikita yung anamorph. Minsan anamorph lang siya, hindi nakikita yung teleomorph. Kaya yung discovery, bibigyan mo ng pangalan, yung asexual, wala kasi hindi nakikita yung sexual. So, kaya nagkaroon tuloy ng dalawang pangalan, one for the sexual and one for the asexual state. Okay, so let's go to how it came to be. So, yung traditional classification of the kingdom fungi, it was based on sexual reproduction. So, ang teleomorph state is the systematic state. So, ibig sabihin, yun ang ginagamit for classification. Yung anamorphic state, non-systematic. So, hindi siya ginagamit for classification. Kawawa naman. Tapos, so based on this is the traditional classification before 2007 because something happened in 2007. So, based on sexual reproduction, like so Chytridium mycota, so mga chytrids, they produce flagellated zygospores. And then, yung zygomycota, nag-evolve na yung chytrids, nawala na yung flagella ng zygospores, naging zygomycota na siya. Tapos yung ascomycota was classified based on the production of ascospores. And then yung basidiomycota, yun ang basidiospores naman. Okay, so that's how they classified fungi traditionally. And then let's talk about the anamorphs. There are three types of anamorphs that encompass both the ascomycota and the basidiomycota, meaning that yung basidiomycota, they produce these anamorphs too. Yung ascomycota, parehong nagpo-produce ng ganyan. But they had a superficial classification. If you've heard before, fungi imperfecti, it's not being used now, but it's still being unofficially used. Para lang merong parang holding cell or something. Para diyan mo na lang ilagay doon para meron silang, ano bang tawag doon? Parang basket. Ganon. Tapon mo lang doon kasi fungi imperfecti sila. Hindi sila sexual. Okay? So also they're also called before deuteromycota. So there are three types of animals. Yung blastomycetes, which comprise the yeast and the yeast-like fungi. And then you have the hyphomycetes, wherein the conidia is born outside on the hyphae. And then you have the coelomycetes, wherein the conidia is born inside a sac called the conidioma. So yun ang difference nilang dalawa. Yung isa nasa labas, walang sac. Yung isa nasa loob ng isang structure. And then the basidiomycota produces, species in the basidiomycota produce the blastomycetes and the hyphomycetes. Tapos ang ascomycota, they produce all three types of anamorphs. So yun ang mga anamorphs. They can be basidiomycota, they can be ascomycota. Like yeast can be basidiomycetes or ascomycetes. So merong mga ganyan. So you have to know what you have. Okay. I would like to reiterate. Pag sinabi mong spore sa fungi, ang tamang word, ang tamang term ay conidium. Plural conidia. Pag sinabi mong sexual, yung teleomorph spore, ascospores or basidiospores. Kasi pag sinabi mong spore, maybe you're talking about plant spores or bacterial spores. Pag sinabi mong conidia, walang duda yon, you're talking about fungi. You're talking about the fungal spore. Okay? So from now on, conidium, conidia. Okay. So, the dual nomenclature. So, in the old days, yung nomenclature ng fungi was under the International Code of Botanical Nomenclature or ICBN. Tapos doon sa Division 2, Rules and Recommendations, meron doon ang Article 59 that provides for the naming of each state independently and discussed in this Article 59. Kasi yun na nga nangyayari independently because sometimes you can only see the teleomorph and sometimes you can only see the anomorph. So anong gagawin mo? Hindi mo naman mahihintay na magkaroon sila pareho na play. So you have to name one, whatever you see. So yun ang nangyari. So they made provisions for that. So that's why there was dual nomenclature. So for example, Aspergillus thermomutatus, ang kanyang teleomorph, Neosartoria pseudofisheri. Parang ang layo, no? Dapat naman kahit konting pareho ng epithet man lang. When I say epithet, yun yung species name. So for example, Aspergillus thermomutatus, yung epithet niya is thermomutatus. Yung Aspergillus is the genus. Okay. So, okay, so back to that. Yeah. So why the dual names? So it says here, the same fungus can occur in many different forms. So you have the sexual and the asexual. So you have to have names for each state. And then many fungi have been described and named at different times without the anomorph teleomorph connection being recognized. So at that time, in matagal na panahon, wala pang DNA sequencing. Hindi mo ma-connect yung teleomorph anomorph connection kasi hindi mo magagawa yung sequencing. But what they did before was they did mating experiments. Kasi kaya naman siya hindi nagpo-produce ng teleomorph tsaka anomorph at the same place. Kasi merong fungi or fungus na heterothallic, meaning isa lang yung mating type niya, either mating type minus or mating type plus. So kung minus lang meron siya, wala siyang plus, hindi siya makakagawa ng sexual, ng meiosis. So ang nangyayari, kung marami kang isolates of that fungus, kung i-cross mo siya or i-mate mo siya together, so you culture them in a plate, like in a cross manner like that. And then if they have the mating plus and the mating minus, mating type plus and minus, mag-form siya ng sexual state. So most of the time, maraming heterothallic na fungus. So that's why hindi mo makikita ang teleomorph until you mate them together. Okay? So here's an example. Yung Arachnomyces na genus. Meron siya, typified siya sa isang species niya, Arachnomyces sulphureus. So, na-discover siya in 1902. And then when I say teleomorphic species, ibig sabihin ang kanyang anomorphic state ay hindi known. Pag sinabi mong teleomorphic state, ibig sabihin meron siyang anomorphic state. Sana hindi ko kayo nako-confuse. So usually when you read something in the article, okay, Aspergillus is a teleomorphic state. Aspergillus is a teleomorphic species. So ibig sabihin nagpo-produce siya ng teleomorph pero hindi siya nagpo-produce ng anomorph. Pero mali 'yon. Yung example lang 'yon ha, huwag kayong maniwala sa akin kasi ang Aspergillus, meron siyang teleomorph at saka anomorph. Alam yon. Example lang yon. So anyway, ang Arachnomyces na-discover siya 1902. And then in 1990, they discovered Onychocola. And this is a nail fungus. It infects the nail. Kaya, so see, this is a good example of having a name that would give you an idea what that is. Kasi onychocola, yung infection sa nail is called onychomycosis. Kasi yung nail, onycho yun. Tapos, pag sinabi mong onychocola, teka lang, ano onychocola? So, it's a species of fungus that infect the nails. Okay, so that's why it's very informative. So, nangyari sa onychocola in 1990, they had several isolates. But this was an anamorphic species. So, hindi nila alam kung ano yung teleomorph. So, ang ginawa nung supervisor ko, siya yung naka-discover nito. Ni-make niya yung mga isolates niya. And then, it produced a teleomorph na kamukha nung Arachnomyces. So that's how they connected onychocola to Arachnomyces. So now, because the teleomorph is known, and at that time, this is before 2007, at that time, when you know the teleomorph, you adopt the name of the teleomorph. So then the name of the anamorph gets lost. Okay? But yun na nga nagkakagulo na because clinicians like doctors, what they know is what they see. So onychocola ang alam nilang nagkukos ng disease, hindi naman yung Arachnomyces. So kung kami mag-identify kami ng fungi and we say, hey, yung fungus is Arachnomyces, like ano yan? Pero pag sinabi namin onychocola, oo, alam namin yan. Pwede namin yan i-treat ng kitaconazole. So, ganyan ang nangyayari. That's why, naging confusing na. Ito yung, the next slide please. So, ito yung yung example ng species na may mga dual names na magkaiba. So, ito, for example, Arachnomyces nodositosus onychocola canadensis. So, ito usually ang mga anamorph names, yun yung mga clinical na name, yun yung alam ng mga doktor. So you have Neosartoria pseudofisurae, it's Aspergillus thermomutatus. Ito pa, nakakatang twist din, presumptive Naniseopsis brizii. Ang kanyang anamorph, kasi hindi alam yung pangalan, nakikita lang yung structure na Chrysosporium-like. Sinabi namin, Chrysosporium anamorph of Naniseopsis brizii. Napakahaba. So what we did was lalagyan mo na lang siya ng acronym, CA and V. So when we say CA and V, alam namin yon. Yun yung mga nagkukos ng infection sa mga reptiles. So, di ba, nagkakaroon na talaga ng problem. Dual names are becoming really problematic kasi hindi mo alam. Yung policy nung time na yon, nasasabihin, you use the teleomorph name, pero hindi kami nakikinig sa clinical. Kasi, why are we going to listen to that when we don't know what they are? What we're familiar with are Onychocola canadensis, Fusarium solani, kasi yun ang nagkukos ng disease yun ang nakikita namin sa mga culture namin, hindi yung mga teleomorph. So, nagkakagulo na. So, anyway, the next slide.